All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Pierce, and I will be your trainer for today. Alongside of me is Mary. She'll be helping to answer any questions that come through in the Q&A, and also let me know if there's anything that we should redemonstrate as we go throughout our training today. And today we're going to be talking about OneNote. I'm really excited to be talking about OneNote. It's an amazing application. It's one that I have personally used for close to the past decade of my life through school and through life as well. So there's a lot of amazing features, a lot of tools that we can use. And before we get started, I do want to talk a little bit about our live event today and some of the resources that we have available. So first thing is closed captioning. So we do have closed captioning options available. All of you are going to be on a 5 to 20 second delay, depending on where you're located, and that will give some time for closed captionings to be generated, or for closed captions to be generated. We can adjust those settings by selecting the gear icon at the bottom of our live stream view. At the bottom left-hand corner, we also have the option to play or pause and adjust the volume if we'd like to. If you rewind and want to return to the live portion of the training, you can select the live option right here. So we do have about 2 hours together today, and we'll be covering a lot of different topics. So the odds of you wanting to rewind are probably pretty high, since we'll be covering a lot of different content. So if you do rewind and want to review anything, you can always select the live option right here to return to our current portion. You also have the leave option available at the top right-hand corner. This is going to be the best way to troubleshoot any audio or video issues that you might experience throughout the training today. So if you do experience any of those, try leaving and rejoining, and that should solve the issue. We can also go full screen at the bottom right-hand corner here. We recommend doing that if you aren't going to be asking questions. It will help to give you a better view of everything that we're showing, and we'll be able to get a little bit more detail on the specifics of what we are highlighting today. When we select the gear icon here, we can change some settings related to our live stream in general. The first is we can change our playback speed. So if you do want to go back and review anything and want to take it a little bit slower or take it step by step, we can always adjust that playback speed here. Or if you want to take our current portion a little bit slower, we can always adjust that as well. We have the option to turn our captions and subtitles completely on or off and adjust specific settings related to them here. We can also adjust the resolution of our video stream today. So if you are in a place with a little bit of slower internet, we can adjust that quality to ensure that you still have a good live event experience. And when we select the captions and subtitle settings, we will have the choice to change our text size, our text color, as well as having a transparent background. We have a lot of different choices when it comes to setting up our live event. I recommend taking a little bit of time here to ensure that everything is set up for you and you'll have a comfortable live stream experience today. With that said, we're going to jump right into our agenda for today, talking about OneNote. We'll start with an introduction here. And then when we jump into our live demo, we'll talk about creating a notebook, how we can set up our notebooks, really how they're organized, and some pro tips on how we can interact with our notebooks to keep them a little bit more organized or easier to interact with on a daily basis. We'll show how we can share our notebooks and collaborate with others, and we'll also leave some time at the end for any questions that you may have. You can ask questions throughout the training today, and in fact, we really encourage that. We'll be keeping an eye on that Q&A for any questions that you may have, and we'll be addressing those as we go throughout the training, but there are some questions that we might save until the end, so we will have time for all of those. With that said, we're going to jump into our introduction for OneNote here. So with OneNote, you can sort your content across notebooks with sections and pages to help keep your busy world a little bit more organized. Highlight things like notes that are really important, or you can have things like to-do lists with different tags to help you find information with one click. We can also use some of the more advanced features of OneNote to bring in things like images or screenshots of text, and then immediately have that text searchable. So OneNote has a lot of powerful things that happen in the background that help to really organize our ever busy world. And OneNote also offers features like highlighting or ink annotations and more to bring through the life on kind of a digital page. So you can record audio notes, insert online videos, or even add file attachments and interact with them directly in OneNote. One of my favorite features of the inking capabilities is the ability to handwrite math equations and then have them solved and shown step-by-step instructions for learning new concepts. Personally, this is how I survived Calc 2 in college, just a couple of years back, and it is a tool that I could not imagine going through my educational experience without. So OneNote has a lot of tools that we can use to just make even the learning experience a lot better. And because OneNote syncs across all of your devices, you can access your notes anywhere, anytime, without missing a beat. So you can access it on your computer, on the web, or on your mobile device, and have relatively the same experience across all of them, give or take a couple of functions. And what's nice about OneNote is we can get even more done when we work together. We can share and collaborate in OneNote with ease, really. You can annotate notes together, share ideas, and work together in real time with your coworkers, your friends, family, or your classmates. If you're working on a project, everyone can work on the same document at the same time and write some notes about the development of that project. And since it's all cloud-based, we can ensure that everyone has the most up-to-date version of our notes, and all of that will be updated in real time. We won't really have to worry about it. With OneNote for Education, classroom organization has never been easier. With a personal workspace for every student, a content library for handouts, and a collaboration space for lessons and creative activities, OneNote for Education empowers your students to create their best work. We just got a fantastic question in here. Does it work on iPad with Apple Pencil? And yes, it absolutely does. It will actually be a relatively similar experience to the full Windows version. You will still be able to annotate all of that in real time. And I believe on the iPad function, there is the math feature. I am not as experienced with the iOS version of the application, but I believe you should have all or relatively similar features across all of your platforms. So really fantastic question. And with that said, we're going to jump into our live demo for today. I'm going to be covering OneNote in general from just a standard user perspective. And then about halfway through our training, I'm going to pass it off to Mary to cover more of the specifics on OneNote for Education and how we can use things like our class notebooks to really organize different content and work effectively with some of our students or teachers. So we'll jump into our live demo at this point. And where we're going to begin today is by creating a notebook in the first place. So go ahead and enter in your Q&A area on a scale from 1 to 10 how familiar you are with OneNote. Have you never even heard of OneNote? Maybe opened the application once or twice but haven't really used it, or maybe on the 10 side you use OneNote every day and you could probably teach this. So go ahead and let us know in the Q&A. We'd really love that feedback and kind of where you are with OneNote, how comfortable you are. So we'll be keeping an eye on that as those come through. But where we're going to start today is by creating a notebook, because that's where our whole OneNote experience is really going to start. So to begin opening a notebook in OneNote, we will want to go to the File area and then select New. And actually, before we jump into that, I should clarify there are two versions of OneNote that we can be using. There is the OneNote that comes with your standard Office installation. So when you install Office through your school's portal.office.com, you log in with your school information, you will be able to, oh, I also realized that you are not seeing, there we are. So we're going to be using 2016 today, but I will be kind of going back and forth between the two. The one that I'm using currently is the one that comes with your standard Office installation. However, if you are on Windows, there's a possibility that you have the OneNote for Windows 10. This is very similar to your standard OneNote application, but it's designed better for things like touch or handwriting. I prefer to use this one when I'm taking notes because it does have the advantage of the drawing features that are a little bit more robust and has some of those math features as well. But the OneNote that we'll be using today is a lot more powerful. It has a lot more features that we can integrate. So we'll be really focusing on this one, but your information will transfer between the two. It doesn't really matter which one you're working in. It's really up to your personal decision in which one you prefer certain features with. All right, so to begin in our 2016 experience today, or sorry, our Office 365 experience today, we'll go up to our File option and select New. Now, it's very important to save your OneNote notebook to your cloud storage. That way you can share out your notebook and others will easily be able to collaborate with you. It's also a good idea so that in case anything happens, you won't lose your notebook information. That's probably one of the worst things about having notes in a physical notebook is if they get damaged or they get lost, that information's gone. So being able to save our OneNotes in our cloud storage location makes it really nice to ensure that we still have those backups. If anything were to happen to our computer or a device, it's all hosted in the cloud and we can easily get it back. So we'll want to select our OneDrive to start. And I recommend selecting your Documents folder. And we'll give our OneNote notebook a name. I would also recommend maybe making a folder within your Documents folder for all of your OneNote notebooks. So we'll go ahead and we'll create a new folder here, and we'll just call this our OneNote notebooks. That way, all of the OneNote notebooks that we'll be creating are going to be stored in this one location. We'll go ahead and give our notebook a name. We'll call it OSU, and we'll select Create. Now our notebook has been created and it will give us the option to share it with people immediately, but we're going to circle back to this in just a little bit to cover how we can do this. So I'll select Not Now for now, and we'll continue from there. Now I want to talk about the organization of our notebooks in general, because there is a really specific way that our notebooks are organized that helps to facilitate the access of certain resources or really just organize our information in general. And I like to compare our notebooks to a filing cabinet. Our notebook itself is really the shell for our filing cabinet. It doesn't have any drawers in it. It doesn't have any documents yet. It's just an empty filing cabinet. From there, we can add sections or drawers to our filing cabinet to represent really large amounts of information or topics. So for example, if I had our section 1 here, I can double click on the name of it to rename any given section, and I will call this my daily to-do list. So now I know anything that is contained in this section will be related to my to-do list or things that I want to do every day. From there, we can expand our sections to add in pages. And pages are like the folders or the individual papers that you put into your filing cabinet. So we have our whole notebook as a whole. We have our sections that act as our drawers, and then we have our files in those drawers, which are our pages. And when we combine all of these together, we have a fully functioning filing cabinet that we can use to organize any amount of data. We can even group sections or pages together based on common characteristics. So if we were to create another section here by selecting the plus icon, we could make this our, let's see, if we want this to be any specific homework assignments. Both of these are related to tasks that we'll be taking a look at every day. So we can combine sections into one larger section to represent how some information is similar to each other. And we can do this by right-clicking at the top of our notebook and creating a new section group. We'll call this our daily resources. And to add content to this section, we simply click it and drag it on top. Now we can click and drag both of these into our daily resources and they'll be contained there. We'll be able to organize our sections into broader topics, and we can navigate back to our main menu by using the arrow here. We can always select our sections to begin interacting with them or expand them by selecting the plus option to add more. And now that we have some sections created, I want to add in some pages. By default, a page will be created whenever we create a new section, and we can rename our page by either adding a title on the left-hand side here, or by right-clicking on our page over here and selecting Rename. So we'll go ahead and call this our, let's see, to-do list for 2/23. And say we wanted to expand this even more to add in some resources for it. We can add another page over here, and that will create an entirely new page under our to-do list. So for to-do here, one of our tasks is going to be, I will say, email my professor. And right now, this is just some text on our page. Now, if we wanted to make this into a to-do list, we can highlight our text, and in our quick access menu here, we can select our to-do list option, and that will create a to-do list that allows us to check off items as we finish them. Now, if we were to interact with another page here and say this was related to our to-do list for 2/23, we could have this page contain the information that we want to email our professor about. So email information. Now, if these two documents or these two pages are related to each other, I can right-click on any page and I can choose to make it a subpage. And what that does is essentially paperclip these two pages together. Now I have my to-do list and my email information connected together. If I were to add another page and rearrange these at all, the email information will always stay attached in this order to our to-do list. So we can sort of create folders for our information by making subpages and organizing different pages together into collections. All right, so now that we've covered kind of the basics of our notebook, kind of how they're organized a little bit, we will be jumping into our file area in just a second to talk about all of these features. But I want to check in with our moderators briefly here and see if we have any questions before we continue.
We're doing good so far on questions. We've got lots of excitement about learning the different types of OneNote and all the different things we can do.
Perfect. All right. So we're going to jump into our files area here and start talking about some of the general resources that we have available in OneNote. So when I select our files area here, this is going to bring me into our info section. And this information section is going to give us information about all of the notebooks that we currently have open within our OneNote application. And that's an important note. A notebook can have one of two states. It can either be open or it can be closed. If we go to our settings, we can choose to close any open notebook, or if we go to our open area, we can open a notebook that has been interacted with recently. So currently, the OSU notebook is the only one that is open in my application. From here, I can choose to invite people to this notebook. I can view the notebook directly or change some settings related to it. If I've been offline for a while, I can choose to synchronize this notebook to ensure that I have the most up-to-date version. I can move this notebook to a different storage location if I'd like to. Or if I select properties here, I can change the name of our notebook, I can change the color of it, as well as the storage location. So if you're like me and you like to organize things based on different colors, we can select the drop-down menu here and change the color of our notebook, as well as different sections if we'd like to. So if we right-click on a section, we can choose our section color, and we can change these to represent the different types of content that we might be using. We'll make this one red. Continuing down our list, we do have our new option, and we already talked about this a little bit when it comes to creating our notebooks, but we do have that option here to create a new notebook at any point. When we select the Open option, we will have a list of notebooks that we have recently interacted with. And if we go to our recently interacted with list, we can choose to pin a notebook. When we pin a notebook, it will be moved into our pinned section, and it will be easier to access if we do close this notebook and want to reopen it. From here, we can go into our print area, and printing here is relatively similar to printing in any other Office application. So if you've printed in Word before, this is going to be very similar. So we won't spend too much time here, since most of us probably have experience with that. Although, if we do want to print information, we do have this export option. And when we select export, we can choose to export a single page, a section, or an entire notebook. And we can choose the format that we'd like to create our notebook in, or that we'd like to export it in. We can choose to export it as a OneNote file, meaning whoever we share this with will need to open it in a OneNote application. We can choose to export it as a Word document or even a PDF. So if we'd like a more permanent version of a single page or an entire section, we can always select our PDF version here, and that will create a PDF version of the page that we have selected. If we want to share out our notebook, we can select the share option here. And we have a couple of options when it comes to sharing out content. The first option we have is to type the name or email address of who we'd like to share this with. So I'm going to share this with Mary. And I can control whether she can edit or she can view this notebook. I want to set it to just view for now. And we'll require her to sign in with her account before accessing the document. When I select share, that will then share out the notebook with her, allowing her to view it. She'll receive an email in her inbox notifying her that she has this notebook available, at which point she can select a link there and allow us to collaborate together. We also have the option to get a sharing link. And this will be a generic link either from the view or edit category that you can share out with people. And as long as they have access to that link, it will provide them whatever permissions you've copied from that link. So the ability to view or the ability to edit. We can choose to share a OneNote notebook with a meeting as well. So if we have our Outlook application open and we want to create a OneNote or Teams meeting, I can select a specific Teams meeting option here. And we can attach our meeting notes. What this does is allow us to share a specific notebook. We can expand it to select a specific section, or we can expand it even further to select a specific page. And when we attach that, we will notice in our OneNote notebook that we have some information that has been added to our page. It will contain information about the meeting, any participants that have been added, and any special notes that have been made. All right. One of the things that I actually do want to talk about just a little bit here is down in the options. When we select options, we can change some settings about our application and how it will appear. I like to change our office theme because the colorful one can be a little harsh on the eyes at night. So I like to use either the dark gray or the black one. And when I select black here, we can see that it will actually change my background as well to make this completely a dark theme, make it easier on the eyes if you are working later at night. And especially from a student perspective, there are a lot of late nights that you'll spend working in OneNote or looking over your notes. So having the ability to kind of adjust this and make it easier on your eyes can be super useful. I'll go ahead and change our theme back here, however, just to make it easier on our stream. And now that we've kind of gone through that file section here, we've talked about how we can share out information, open up new ones and export them. I do want to check in, see if there are any questions about how we can interact with our notebooks as a whole before we dive into some specific settings that we have.
Pierce, I think the only consistent question that we're seeing that I know you addressed this at the beginning. Some people are using the OneNote for Windows 10 app. We do have some folks using the OneNote 2016 app as well, which is why Pierce is currently showing this one. We will show you features in both, but just wanted to do that quick call out.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually at this point, I'll take a second to show how we can do that whole process and create a notebook in our Windows 10 version as well. So we are in our Windows 10 version currently. I will change our theme to make it a little bit easier to see. Let's see here. It should be. All right. We can change the settings overall, but I need to go into our options for Windows and change that there. So we'll go to themes, nope, colors, light. Perfect. All right, so now we have a little bit brighter version of our Windows 10 version. And from here, if we'd like to create a notebook, we can go to the Home option or navigate to our notebooks on the left-hand side. And to create a new notebook, we'll select our drop-down menu right here. From here, we can navigate down to the bottom and select Add Notebook. So here we have the option to give our notebook a name. We'll call this our OSU Windows 10 version, and we will create our notebook. We can access our notebooks across the two versions, so it really doesn't matter which one you necessarily use. I can always go to More Notebooks here and open up my OSU notebook that I've recently created. We'll even see our sections represented here with our daily to-do list, our homework, things like that. So in our OSU for Windows 10, we can create new sections by selecting Add Section at the bottom here and add new pages by selecting Add Page. So the organization for our notebooks within the Windows 10 version is going to be very similar. We'll have a lot of the same resources, and when it comes to sharing out a notebook, we will select our share icon at the top right-hand corner. From here, we can choose to send a link for the entire notebook, or we can choose to just send a copy of this page. This will allow us to email it, or we can choose to print it as a PDF by going to the ellipses and then selecting print. All right, so that's kind of the basics in Windows 10. I want to continue on into our OneNote examples here and talk about some of the resources that we have available in our 2016 version and our Windows 10. So one of the awesome resources that we have available within our OneNote application is we can create tags to help organize information that we have added to our pages. So for example, I'm going to create a new page here, and this will just be some important information. Now we can add information to our page by typing, and we'll say that some of this information is some contact data for our professor. We have, let's see, a notification to update our calendar, and so on. We can highlight this information and then use our tags area up at the top here to categorize information that we have added. So we already talked about our to-do tag and how that allows us to create a to-do list that we can check off, but we can also add tags for things like important notes, any questions, or if we expand our menu further, we can have things highlighted such as remember for later, whether it's a contact, a password, or maybe it's a critical action that we need to take. If we navigate to the bottom, we can create customized tags. So if you need to create more of a customized organizational system, you can create some customized tags as well. What we're going to do with this information is flag it as important. And that will have a star next to it that allows us to know that this information is important when we're looking through our page. But having tags associated with things isn't necessarily useful on their own. These tags have context to them. We've flagged this information as important because it is important for us. In our daily resources, we've added our to-do list because we want to know that this is information that we need to do. So we have this really awesome Find Tags feature on our tags area here. And when we select Find Tags, a menu will open up on the right-hand side here. And we want to show everything across this entire notebook. So we can show all the tags in this notebook, in this specific section group, a section, or a specific page, or even all notebooks if we'd like to. So I'm going to look across our entire notebook here. I'll refresh, and we get an entire list of our tags that we've created. We have important tags here, such as the ones on this page, and we have our to-do list from our daily resources section. So we're able to see all of this information in one place, and we can choose to create a summary page at the bottom of this menu here. And when we create a summary page, that will add a new page to our notebook with all of our tags listed here. Now, what's nice about this is that they're not just tags that are copied and pasted onto this page. These are actually links to the direct location in our OneNote notebook. So if I were on this page and I didn't know where my to-do list was, I could select the OneNote icon right here, and it will automatically bring me to that location and highlight what the tag is referring to. So we can almost create this table of contents based on tags that we have and easily be able to navigate to them by simply selecting the tag itself or the OneNote icon next to it, at which point it will bring us directly to that content and allow us to interact with it. What's also nice about our tag area is if we check off our tags here, we can choose to show only unchecked items for our to-do list. So currently we see that email my professor is still listed here. But if I check this off, we will see that, and we refresh, we'll see that email my professor is now no longer here, and we will have more of a updated to-do list that we can evaluate. So I do recommend using the tags area here, creating some customized tags, because it allows you to easily flag information and return to it in just a couple of clicks, or even create a summary page like we have here that allows you to link to and directly access anything in your notebooks. Okay, I do want to continue across the top here and continue talking about some of the different resources that we have available. So next we're going to hop into our Insert tab here. And this is going to be a pretty fundamental part of OneNote, because OneNote in and of itself is a place for us to store information. So a lot of it is going to be brought in from outside resources. The first thing that we can do here in our Insert tab is we can choose to insert space between content that we've already added. So if we select our insert space here, we will get a bar and an arrow indicating the direction that we can create space in. So if we select here, we'll be able to drag down our to-do list and create space for us to add in new content. One thing I do want to double check here, in the Windows 10 version, if you would like to create tags, we can select the drop-down menu here, and we'll be able to add in those tags here. I forgot to mention that a little bit earlier, but you can still create tags in the Windows 10 version. It'll be on your home page in a drop-down menu here. You can even create new tags or custom tags as well. If you'd like to view a list of all of the ones that are used in this notebook, we can select that used in this notebook option here, and that will give us our summary list. I saw a couple of questions come through in our Q&A, so I wanted to address that a little bit. But in our insert tab here, we can use the insert space option to create space in between content that we've already added, make it really easy to also remove space to keep things more organized. So if I had added an image here, or maybe I just had a lot of extra space that I didn't need, I can drag in whatever direction the arrows are pointing. So I could drag this up and it will automatically stop it before it overlaps with content above. So we can have perfectly aligned content and we don't really have to worry about putting in that extra formatting work. Now, another really useful part of the Insert tab, and honestly a feature that I use all the time, is the attachment of files. And we have two key choices we can make when it comes to attaching a file. We can have a file printout, or we can attach a file as an attachment. Now, our attachment or a file attachment is going to act very similar to an email attachment where we will be able to open it up and interact with it, but it will not have a preview available. It will just have an image here that we can then select and open up the attachment. A more useful way of inserting information into our notebook here is to use a file printout. When we select our file printout, we can choose something like a PDF, an Excel document, or a Word document to have it print directly in our page. So I'll select Insert here. And it is saying that it's open in another application, but it shouldn't be. So we'll try doing something else. We'll go to File Printout, and we will select just our semester recap Word document. And what this will do is insert our Word document as a direct printout. So we will be able to see the page, interact with it as if it were an image directly on our screen. If we wanted to make edits to this, we can also double click on it or on our Word document attachment at the top and begin making changes to our Word document. So this by itself will be, we'll be able to move this around our screen. However, if we want to kind of lock down the movement of this page and allow us to write on top of it or type on top of it, we can right click on it and we can choose to set the picture as background. That will allow us to type on top of it. As we can see here, I can type directly on top of our document now. This will not save it to the document. This is just a layer on top, but within our OneNote notebook, it allows us to add in that kind of information. What's also nice about OneNote is we can choose to copy text from this page of our printout. OneNote has amazing OCR technology, which is called, short form for optical character recognition. That allows us to look through any picture that we have, whether that is an imported document or a screenshot that we've taken, and allow us to search through the text that is there. So for example, if I wanted to insert a screenshot of our page here today, I could select Screen Clipper. I can select a part of our page here, and that information will be inserted directly into our OneNote notebook. Now, if I wanted to do a search on our page, I could use the Control F combination and search for a word. I'll look for the word Teams. And this has a blue background, but if you notice, it did find where that word was located, even though this was a screenshot that I took just a couple of seconds ago. OneNote is that fast in processing the text in an image that within a matter of a second or two, we'll be able to look across all of our notebooks, all of our images, and find the options available that we're looking for. And this feature will be available in the Windows 10 version as well, but it is a little bit more restricted. That's why I do recommend using the 2016 version for that. But a lot of the options for the Insert tab, such as adding a table, adding a file, or in our draw area, we have the Insert Space option. We still have all of those features available. They might just be in a different location. All right, so continuing across here, we do have the option to record video and record audio. And what's nice about each of these features is as we go through adding information to our page, whether that is handwriting or typing, it will automatically add a timestamp for our recording as we're writing. So if we're writing down notes in class or meeting notes about a presentation, anything like that, and we have a recording going, we will have audio segments connected to the exact point that we were writing. So we can really easily correlate our handwriting with what was mentioned at that time and sort of have that real world experience of hearing and writing at the same time. Even if we're reviewing our notes later, we'll still have that similar experience and be able to look back on that information. All right, so we've kind of covered our insert area here for the most part. I have noticed we've gotten some questions in the Q&A. I want to check in with our moderators again and see if we have any questions that we should address, anything that we want to re-demonstrate before we continue.
Hey, Pierce. I think there was just a question about understanding, especially in the Windows 10 version, understanding the difference between if we can print a page versus what the inserting printout function is.
Yep, so printing a page. So you mean printing like from a Word document to OneNote?
No, so if we wanted to, let's say, print the page that we're working on that right there, if we wanted to send that to a printer to print that out, can we do that?
Yeah, absolutely. So if we would like to print information, I'll actually go to our other notebook that has some information on it. We'll wait for this to synchronize real quick. Since we've made some edits to it, I want to make sure that all of this is good to go. Okay, so we have our to-do list here. We'll just work with this for now. If we would like to print information from our Windows 10 version, then we can either use the Control-P combination to print information, or we can go up to the ellipses at the top right corner and select Print. Now here we will want to choose where we're printing to. I don't have a printer connected directly to this, but you would select your respective printer. And the most important thing when it comes to printing from OneNote, and especially the Windows 10 version, is to make sure that you select Fit to Page. Especially if you have handwriting or things like that, sometimes the scaling on your page is not necessarily one-to-one. You might have zoomed in a little bit or zoomed out to fit your information on the page. And if we select actual size versus Fit to Page, then sometimes it can have that handwriting go to a separate page or it won't quite scale properly. So it's important to adjust even the orientation and the scaling for your page to ensure that your information will fit properly. But from there, we'll be able to print exactly like we would with any other document in Office, and we'll be able to see that print preview and how everything will be laid out on our page here. Are there any other questions?
One other quick question for you, Pearson. My apologies. But with the ability to insert recordings, if we wanted to do like an audio recording in OneNote, do you know if there's an option to edit that at all? Or would we be better off just redoing it?
The recording itself will be saved as a separate file. I believe OneNote cannot. Oh, okay, because I don't have an audio device on this. But I believe you can take the audio recording and save it. There is not a built-in audio editor, so you would need some sort of external application to edit that audio file if you wanted to change anything about it. But if the quality isn't good, I would recommend either changing your microphone or maybe just adjusting where you are when you're trying to record. OneNote doesn't really provide a lot of resources for that. It's really just a way to record directly into your notebook.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yep, absolutely. And I do notice we're getting some questions about templates, and I did want to move on to that right now. So fantastic that we're seeing those questions. What's nice about creating templates is we can reuse the layout that we have for any given page. So for example, if I go to a meeting every day and I'm taking meeting notes, and we have the same, roughly the same sections that we use every day. We have meeting notes, meeting minutes, and then maybe any actions going forward. So we can create a meeting notes template that has information organized for, let's see, past actions. I'll zoom in a little bit here. We'll have this be past actions. We'll have this be our meeting minutes. And we will have actions going forward. So we're going to be using these three sections pretty frequently for every meeting that we go to, and we don't necessarily want to have to recreate this page every time. So that's where page templates come into play. What they allow us to do is save the exact formatting of a page so that we can recreate it really easily. When we get started, we can go up to our page templates option here and select page templates. Here we'll be able to choose from some pre-made templates based on different categories, or we can go to the bottom here and select Save Current Page as a template. Now you'll want to make sure that your page is as formatted as you'd like it to be, because once we save it as a template, it will recreate it exactly as it is now. So if I select Save Current Page as a template, we'll be able to give our template a name. We'll call this our meeting notes template. And we also have this option to set as the default template for new pages in this section. So if this were a section completely dedicated to meeting notes, we could check this option here, and then every time we make a new page, it will automatically use the template that we've created, and we won't have to worry about it. So I'll go ahead and select Save. And now if we were to create a new page and we wanted to put that template in place, we could go to our page templates option, go to My Templates, and then select Meeting Notes, the template that we created. And that will automatically insert a new page with our meeting template. So we actually don't even need to create a new page in order to use our template. We can simply select it, a new one will be created, and we will be able to go from there. It'll be exactly the same, exact same formatting as we had when we first saved our template. So this can save us a lot of time and reusing certain pages or organizing different types of information. So really good questions. The last area that I would like to talk about today, before I kind of hand it over to Mary to talk about the specific class notebook features, is our view category. Because the view category is going to have some really useful features when it comes to working or kind of multitasking and taking notes at the same time. The first thing we can do is change our view. So by default, we are in the normal view, and we can change this to go to a full page view, where all of our options are available across the top. We can select the ellipses here to open up our menu. And as soon as we click away, it will go away. We can also choose to have a drop-down menu here where we have all of our notebooks listed, our sections, and our pages. So we can easily switch content without needing to close down our full screen experience. One of the other options we have is to dock to desktop. And what this will do is put our window on the right-hand side, and now any windows that we open, if we try to make them full screen, will only go up to where that notebook ends. So essentially, this space is dedicated for our notebook, and any other windows will begin working in the space left after that. Oops, that was the wrong thing to select. There we are. So a couple of other options that we have in our view page here is we can choose to change our page color, add rule lines, whether we want straight lines or graph paper, and we can change our paper size as well. So if you do want to print this and ensure that everything is lined up correctly, we can select our letter format here, or 8.5 by 11. And now we can see that our page is formatted as an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. And if we were to save this as a template, the new pages that we create will also have the 8.5 by 11 paper size. So we do have options for creating more realistic or real life sized papers within our OneNote application. All right, now the last page or the last areas that we can adjust here, and I'm actually going to change this back to auto. The last area that I'd like to talk about in our view page is the Windows area, because there are some fantastic resources here that we can kind of combine with other tools to make our experience really unique. And one of those tools is the always on top option. What this will do is if you've ever used something like picture-in-picture, it selects a specific window and ensures that anything that opens will always be behind this. So if I have my normal window here and I move to another one, it will become overlapped. But once I select always on top, this window will now stay front and center, even if I have other windows that I'm interacting with or I'm opening it on top. We can use this always on top feature in combination with our full screen to have essentially like a always editable notebook wherever we want. Even as we open up new applications, say we go to, we're going to Canvas to enter in some new documents or take a look at our homework, we can always have this notebook available here and select our drop-down menu to go to different notebooks, different sections, or different pages, and we'll always be able to interact with our notebook, continuing to add notes, or even selecting our drop-down menu here to change things like our font or insert things like screenshots. So I recommend combining some of these tools that you have in your view area. It can make your experience with OneNote a lot easier and allow for really advanced multitasking, especially for students. That's something that is almost fundamental. So yeah, I just kind of like to show that tip off. All right, at this point, I think I'll check in with our moderators here, see if there are any questions that we have, but if not, I'll pass it over to Mary to start talking about some of our class notebook features.
Hey, Pierce, one quick question for you, and forgive me if you already talked about this, that's fantastic. Did you have a chance to demonstrate the handwriting and how we can convert that to type or text?
I did not. Oh, didn't have a chance to talk about that.
Okay.
Yeah, I can show that off here briefly if you'd like to.
That would be awesome. I know we've just got quite a few users on tablets or different devices with handwriting, so I think we saw some questions about that in the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, for handwriting, I recommend using the Windows 10 version. I prefer to use that one when it comes to handwriting. And we also have a couple of other options that are available within our handwriting features in the Windows 10 version. So one of those that I really like is we have the ink to text that is available in both versions. So we can write out any text here. Sorry, I'm trying to write with a mouse right now, so it's a little awkward with it, but we can select it and use ink to text, and it will automatically convert our ink to editable text. Another useful one that we have is the math function. And I think I said this a little bit earlier, but this is the main reason I was able to pass a lot of my math classes in college was because of this math feature. And that's because we can write out some really advanced math functions and have it show us step-by-step instructions or even create practice quizzes based on this type of content. So for example, if we did a little bit more advanced formula here, we'll say the integral of 4 plus 5 dx. We can select this and go to our math function here. It will automatically look for it. And if we need to make any corrections, we can select the fix it here. And it looks like it misunderstood what my 4 was right here. So I can just select it, correct it, and then it will automatically look through our thing again to make sure that everything is good. It looks like it's getting a little confused about some of my formatting here. So I will clarify and say that is the 5dx, and it looks like it is finding everything correctly now. And now that we have this, we do have the option to select ink to math, which will transcribe this into a text format from our handwriting. Or if we select our drop-down menu here, we can choose to evaluate and show step-by-step instructions on how we got our solution. We can have it graph in 2D, at which point we could have it copied to our page so we can interact with it. We can even have it differentiate with respect to different values. And my favorite part is if we go to the evaluate option, we can generate a practice quiz. So we can have different numbers of questions that are generated based on the types of equations or information that we're writing on our page. So this will create an auto-generated form with some questions that we can begin to answer, and it will give us the correct solutions at the end. So if we got any wrong, we can see where that process kind of went askew. Hopefully that kind of covers some of the stuff we can do with handwriting. There is a lot to our handwriting feature in OneNote. So my best recommendation would be to spend a little time using it, kind of get used to the different features and how you can organize different handwriting options. Are there any other questions before we continue?
Nope, I think that was perfect. And somebody did want to commend you on your writing skills with the mouse, so nicely done.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, I will go ahead then, Pierce, if you're good, and take over screen sharing. We'll talk a little bit about class and staff notebooks for y'all.
Sounds good.
There we go. Perfect. So with OneNote comes the ability with your licensing to have access to two different types of notebooks. One is a staff notebook, one is a class notebook. And this is in addition to all of the fantastic things that Pierce has already walked you through for today. So I just want to show you how these work in case it's something you're interested in looking into or trying out. So we are going to actually start in office.com because I want to walk y'all through how you would go about creating this. So we are going to go down, and I'll go ahead and zoom in here a bit as well. We're going to go down to that all apps icon. This opens up all of our applications, of course. Now we have that OneNote option, but you'll notice we have class notebook and we have staff notebook. We're going to go ahead and start with class. So we're going to walk through, and this will help explain kind of what it does as well. And this is also if you have a class notebook where you can come to make changes. If you needed to add an additional teacher, if you needed to remove a student or add a student, if a student came in partway through the year, if you needed to make any changes, you can do that. But for now, we're going to go ahead and go on create. We're going to give this a name. Best bet is to name it. Give it the same name as your class. If you need to specify what hour it is because you teach multiple classes with the same name, that's completely understandable. So we're going to go ahead and just go Tech 3. We're going to keep it fairly simple for right now. And it lets us know what it's going to set up. So really what Class Notebook does is it gives us a collaboration space and a content library, which will be accessible to not only yourselves as the teacher, it'll be accessible to your students that you add to this notebook. The collaboration space is a place where you can work with the students. All of the students can work together and see what's happening there. They can make changes, you can make changes. Content library is where if there are resources or additional things that you want to share with the students, it's a great place to put it because students will be able to see that area, but they're not going to be able to make changes. And then there's going to be a private section for just the instructor where they can edit and view their content. So if you wanted to save notes or save a layout for a quiz that you're planning at a later date and time, it's a fantastic place to stash that. And then the really nice thing about Class Notebook is each student is going to have their own private sub notebook that only they and the instructor will be able to see. So if Pierce is one of my students, he'll have his own private sub notebook that he'll be able to see and make changes to, and I will be able to see as well. I can go in and make changes. He and I could work together if I needed to help guide him on some things or if we needed to discuss quizzes or anything like that. But again, he won't be able to see any of the other students' notebooks, so it's a private collaboration space for just that student and the teacher. We'll go ahead and click on next. And now we are going to set this up if there are any other teachers that are going to be helping us with this class. So if there are TAs, if there are teaching assistants, student teachers, etc., that are going to be helping you kind of publish some of that resource, some of those resources, content, helping you with grading, you're going to want to go ahead and get them added. So we will, let's see, we'll get Sean, we'll get Melanie added as one of our teachers. We'll go ahead and click on next. And now we can start putting in our students. And once we get our students entered in, as I said, it'll automatically create a sub notebook for them immediately. So I don't have to individually add a section for each student. I'm going to put their names in here. And it will generate those for me now. So you all don't have to listen to me typing too much. We're going to keep this short and simple. Click on next. Now it's going to ask what sections you want inside of each student's sub notebook. So by default, they're going to get 4 sections. One is going to be for handouts. One is going to be for class notes. One will be their homework that they're working on, and you can even have one for quizzes. So if there are some of these that you think this isn't something that's relevant, I'm not going to use this, or I have another source that I'm using that I don't need this, you can certainly go ahead and remove that. You can even add a section too. So for example, if I am asking my students to keep notes on research that they're doing, or if I'm asking them to do a weekly reflection, I can go ahead and say weekly reflection, and then they can post it in there. And again, because that's a private space, I'll be able to see that and make sure they're doing what I'm asking. They don't have to worry necessarily about other students seeing what it is that they're sharing. We can go ahead and click on next. And now it gives us a chance to see what this is going to look like. So we can see what the teacher's view is going to look like. And we can also see what the student will see. So they will see that collaboration space, that content library, and then they'll have those different sections. Now, this is something you can access on OneNote, in OneNote on any of your devices. If you're using OneNote for Windows 10, if you're using OneNote 2016, OneNote on an iPad, OneNote on a Mac, laptop, or desktop, you're going to be able to use this. When we're set, we'll go ahead and click on Create. It'll take a moment to set up those sections and those areas for us, and then we will be good to go. Now, I do want to show y'all what a slightly more populated class notebook looks like. So I'm going to go ahead and pull one up that's already been generated. So this is an algebra class notebook that we can see here. And as I mentioned, I know there's a lot going on. But I can see things like that collaboration space. And if I click in, I can see different subsections that have been added, right? So I can see that there's teamwork, and this is, again, where they can come in and work together. We've started some Unit 1 notes as well. And then I have that content library. So this is going to be a great place to start sharing some of those resources or notes that are going to be important for everybody. We can look at handouts if we need to. So all of those options that Pierce walked us through as far as adding pages, things like that, adding tags, the handwriting tool that y'all saw, you're going to still have access to this. And then down below, because I am a teacher for this course, I can see all of my students. So I could quickly open up Alex's area and jump into his class notes that he's been taking. I could even look at his quizzes, and if I needed to do a quick grading, I can easily do that. Now, one thing that I want to point out to y'all, at the top, you'll notice that we have this class notebook tab. So if I wanted to add a new section, if I decided after I've set this up that I actually need that weekly reflection tab, if I had forgotten to add that, or if there's a different section we need them to have, I don't have to do that manually. I don't have to do it one by one. You have this option to distribute a new section, or I can even distribute a specific page if I want to. So you have some different options up here, and you'll notice that those edit options that I mentioned inside of OneNote for Windows 10, you do have those here as well. So if I were to click on, let's say, distribute page, I can pick, am I distributing this to an individual, to a group, or is this going across the entire notebook? Or is this crossing into other notebooks? Excuse me. So if I do group, I'll go ahead and let this load for just a moment. There we go. So now I'm going to pick which students I want to share quiz 1 with. So if we're going to come back up to our collaboration or our content library, excuse me. If this quick tips page is something that's new that I've just created and I want that to show up in their handouts area, I can go ahead and distribute that page. So I can either pick a specific set of students or I could go ahead and do the entire group of students. Now, just like Pierce was doing, I do want to show the OneNote 2016 version as well, because I know that there are some folks using that, which is absolutely fine. I'm going to go ahead and get this loaded. Now, layout is going to be a little bit different, yes, but we still have that collaboration space that we took a look at. I can see my students at the top, and I have that teacher only space. So I can still get to all of those different options if I need them. All right, I am going to pause because I do want to also talk about the staff notebook and what that looks like, but I want to pause and check in with Pierce to see if there are any questions about the class notebook before we continue on.
Oh, we are looking pretty good. You should be good to continue.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So let's go ahead. We're going to minimize this for right now. And we are going to come back to our office.com and scroll down to staff notebook. So very similar to the class notebook experience, we are going to have a collaboration space. We'll go ahead and click on create. We are going to pick a name for our staff notebook, and I would recommend naming this either the department that it's for or the focus area, whatever the case may be. So we'll call this Computer Sci for right now. And then it lets us know, right? So we have that collaboration space just like we did in the class notebook where everybody's going to be able to work together. So because I am the one creating this, I'll be the staff leader. The staff members will also be able to come in and edit content. There's going to be a content library. So if there are policy updates or information or news that we need to share with our department, that content library is going to be a fantastic place to store that. Then there's going to be a leaders space where the staff leader can again come in and edit or make changes. The members are not going to be able to see that section. And then each staff member gets their own private sub notebook, just like our students did in the class notebook. So the staff leader and then that particular staff member will be able to see and edit the content in that space. So if we want to add co-leaders or co-owners, we can certainly do that. We'll make Pierce a co-owner of this one. And then we start putting in our staff members. So if we wanted to add Tim, we'll get Melanie added as well. Then we can go ahead and click on next. And get this zoomed in a bit more. So this lets us know, just like we saw before, what sections are going to show up in each staff member's private sub notebook. So there's going to be a section for professional development. So if they want to take notes or kind of plan out what their professional development is going to look like, they can do it there. If there are classroom observations that they want to take or use or even share with the staff leader, classroom observations, great place. If you need them to share their lesson plans with you so that you can provide feedback or guidance or sign off on them, there's a lesson plan feedback section. There's an evaluation section and then a parent communication section as well. So again, not all of these will always be applicable. That's why you have the option to remove sections if you don't need them, and you can always add additional sections as well. This is really meant to be customizable, but it's also meant to give you that collaborative space with your team, with your department. When we're done, we can go ahead and click on next. It'll give us that review of the layout as well, just like we got earlier. So I can see what my notebook will look like. I'll see my collab space, my content library space, as well as my staff members' sub notebooks. And I can take a look at what they can expect for their experience. So Tim we'll be able to see the content library in our collaboration space, and then he'll have those different sections that we mentioned in his own personal private notebook space. When we're done, we're going to go ahead and click on Create. It will get that loaded for us. Now, we are going to go ahead, we'll go ahead and click on Open in OneNote. You're going to have this first open in Windows 10 for us so that we can start there. We'll give this just a moment. So now I have that little welcome area. The welcome area is a great tool. Again, if this is something you want to play with or try out, I highly encourage it. And if you're looking for some guidance on how to get started once you've set it up, it does give you that welcome section right off the bat, where it gives you just some quick tips or ideas. Also, if there are things that you think should be added to OneNote or that you wish you could do, I'm going to point out it gives you a link to a site called User Voice where you can see suggestions other people have made and upvote them. You can also submit your own suggestions. So as you start to use this, if there's something you think could improve the experience, by all means, go ahead and get that added as a suggestion. And we have, again, that collaboration space if there are staff initiatives. So it gives us quite a bit pre-built so that we're not necessarily faced with just that blank notebook that we're trying to figure out how to build for our department. It helps take a lot of that burden off. And just like we did before, we have options to come in and distribute pages or new sections. Now, I did want to, of course, show this in the OneNote for 2016, so let's go ahead and jump over there for just a moment. And again, our tabs or our sections and other private notebooks for our staff will be at the top. And then we'll see our staff members' private notebooks up there as well. So if we do need to jump in and give some feedback on those lesson plans or jot down some observations if we did an audit of their class, we can certainly do that. I did want to pause one more time just to check in with Pierce to see if we had any other questions about the staff notebooks or classroom notebooks at all.
We just had one asking about integration with Canvas, and you can integrate OneNote with Canvas. We won't be able to show specifically how to do that today, but there is the option to do so.
Awesome, thank you so much. And then I know we got some questions earlier about how OneNote looks inside of Microsoft Teams, so we can certainly take a look at that. Pierce, if you'd like, I'm happy to demo that, or if you'd like to take over. I know you are our resident OneNote expert.
No, you should be good to continue if you're okay.
Yep, absolutely. So let's go ahead. I am going to pull up Microsoft Teams. We're just going to take a look at that. So you can access OneNote in Teams in a few different ways, a few different places. If I would like to just add OneNote as a tab to a team, I can go ahead and use that new tab icon at the top. And then I can go ahead and pick the notebook that I would like to share, or that I would like for our team to be utilizing. What's really nice about being able to do this is if there is a particular section that we're working on currently. So even from an administrative side, if I'm working on administration with some other folks, or if we're working on a project and we're using a notebook, I should be able to pick the OneNote that I want to share, and I can actually pick a specific section or page and point the tab directly to that. If for some reason mine is not quite loading like it should, which is okay. But if we do point it towards a specific section or page, when they go into that tab, it will take them there directly. They will still have access to the entire notebook and can navigate to other sections if they need to, but it takes them to the area where our focus of work is for the time being. If I'm just looking to look at my notebooks and possibly other team notebooks inside of Teams, if I go into the ellipses on our navigation bar, you'll notice that I can either choose class notebook, staff notebook. I can also choose OneNote. If I would like to keep this on my navigation pane, I'm going to right click and select Pin. And under personal, I should be able to see my personal notebooks. So notebooks that I myself am in, I'll be able to see those very easily. Any notebooks that I was recently in, and then any notebooks that are part of the teams that I am on. And bear with me for 1 second, y'all. I'm going to try to get something pulled up here since mine is acting just a little off right now. See if we can't get this to load a little nicer. I think yep, there we go. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and pull this over real quick. And we will make this full screen to make it a little easier to look at. So I'm in OneNote on my navigation bar, and I'm taking a look at my personal notebook. So you'll notice this does look very similar to when we were in the desktop application earlier. It does bear a close resemblance to OneNote for Windows 10. So if that's the version that you've been using, this will feel very familiar. You're still going to have most of the options that Pierce walked you through before as well, from being able to edit, list, things like that. We can go ahead and insert different audio recordings if we need to. One thing I want to call out, you do have tags here. You'll notice if you click on the drop down of tags when you're inside of Teams, the list is going to look a little different. You're not going to have that option to create your own tag. You're going to get a pre-populated list. So if there is a custom tag that you're wanting to create, you're going to want to open that in the desktop application. The good news is you can do that very easily from here. Right at the top, you'll see it says open in browser. If we click on that drop down, we can go ahead and open this in the desktop application instead. You also, if we go into Draw, have some of those options that we took a look at earlier. We could go ahead and use our mouse to draw. We have the math functionality as well. So a couple of different options in there. All right. One other really nice feature that I wanted to call out specifically for OneNote, kind of before we do a little bit of recap or open it up for questions, is a tool called Immersive Reader. And some of y'all may already be familiar with this, and if so, that's awesome. I do just like to call this out because from an accessibility standpoint, I think it's a terrific tool. I'm going to go ahead and pull up. Actually, we can get there from right here as well. So that if we go under View, there's that Immersive Reader button. If I click on that, if you haven't seen Immersive Reader before, there's a lot we can do in here. So if you have students that are potentially learning a different language or whatever the need case might be, there's a lot of resources they can access. So they can use this to read aloud to them, read what has been written. We're going to go ahead and get rid of these tips really quick. They can also change the voice settings in here. So if they do need to slow it down or make the voice sound a little bit more feminine or masculine to be able to more easily hear this, they can do so. They can also, at the top right, there are going to be 3 different sections of options. First one is basic text preferences. If they need to make this smaller or bigger, change the font, even change the color to make it easier for them to see and read. They can also choose to turn on syllables. So again, if they're working on learning a different language or need some assistance with reading or things like that, this will help them visually break up those syllables. So if they're trying to read aloud and then use the read back option to see how they compared. So if they want to practice reading and then they go ahead and click on play to hear it read to them, to hear how it's supposed to be, sometimes seeing that syllable breakdown can be useful. And they can also see and highlight different parts of speech. So they can turn on color for nouns, adjectives, adverbs. They can change the colors as well. Again, whatever might help them more easily visualize this. And they can choose to turn on labels so that they know what that color corresponds to. Then the last section here, under reading, really nice options. They can set this so that it focuses on a specific number of lines so that they don't get distracted. They can more easily focus. They can also translate this. So again, if they're working on learning a different language, they could translate this to a different language. There are a lot of different options in here. So if we wanted to pick Korean, they could choose to translate this by word, which means once I click on that word, I will see the translation underneath. I can use the little audio icon to hear it read aloud, or I can go ahead and translate the entire document if I want to. And then I will see that there. And then if I click on a word, I will then see the English translation underneath. So that immersive reader experience is completely integrated into OneNote. As I said, from a functionality or from an accessibility standpoint, I think it's a terrific resource. So I just want to make sure that we called that out. All right, I'm going to check in with Pierce one more time if there are any other questions that came up. Otherwise, I think we should be okay to open up the time for Q&A and potentially give you all a little bit of time back in your day.
Yeah, so we did have a specific question regarding sharing a notebook and the security of that for class notebooks. And the question is specifically, if we were to have a notebook that we add as a tab, will that automatically share it with everyone in the class, or will we need to share that within OneNote before we share it in Teams?
Gotcha. That's a really terrific question. So let's go ahead and go back into Teams for just a moment. And I just want to, I'm going to answer this question, but in a slightly roundabout way for y'all. There are different types of teams that you can create inside of Microsoft Teams. So if I go to join or create a team and I start creating a team from scratch, I could create a class team. Then I can get my students added and things like that. If I set up a class team, a class notebook is automatically created for that class. So if I go into Tim's class, for example, there's a class notebook that's automatically been created. The students that are in this class will have been added to that notebook as well. And so they'll already have their own private sub notebooks, just like I do here. So all of that kind of gets pre-populated. If I had set up a notebook ahead of time and I wanted to add it as a tab to a team that's already been created, I would need to go into OneNote to make sure that that has been shared with everybody on that team. Otherwise, when that person goes to look at that notebook, they will be told they don't have access. They haven't been granted permission to view it or make changes or anything else. And hopefully that helps answer that question. If not, please let me know. And then I also saw so you can share a OneNote notebook with other people very easily. You do not need to create a team just for the two of you. We'll go ahead for just a second. If I come back into OneNote, in the upper right-hand corner, there is that share button that I can use to share that notebook with somebody that I work with. If I want to add them or give them the option to be able to edit or make changes to this notebook. And just to show y'all, if I click on share, if I go into our options at the top, I'm going to be able to choose whether or not that person is allowed to edit the notebook or if I want them to have read-only access instead. So if I want them to be able to collaborate, I'll want to make sure that they can edit. Otherwise, if they only need read-only, I can always uncheck that box. All right. Pierce, any other questions that we should go over before we open up the floor for?
No, we should be good.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So I really want to thank everybody so much for your time today. Hopefully this helped get you started with OneNote, started giving you some ideas about what you can use it for and how you can use it and all of the different options that you can do with it. We are gonna leave, we'll be here for the next 30 minutes. If y'all have any questions or things you would like us to redemonstrate or go over again, please feel free to drop that in the Q&A. Otherwise, we will give you back a little bit of time in your day. I do have one favor to ask as well, which is if y'all could take 90 seconds to fill out a survey to just let us know what you thought of today's training. Let us know what you liked, what you learned, what you would like to learn more about. It helps us continue to improve and customize these trainings and make sure that we're getting you the information that really is important to you. So we will get that survey link dropped in the featured Q&A section. And I will get a slide up in just a couple minutes here with that as well. And we'll go ahead and turn on a little bit of background music in the meantime so that there's not just complete quiet. So thank you all so much. If you're going to take your leave of us, have a great rest of your day. On behalf of myself, Pierce, Mandy from OSU, thank y'all, and we hope to see you again soon.